attacking Republicans for calling ISIS what it really is. Now, the latest example comes from 2016 Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton during a foreign policy speech. This was earlier today. Watch this.
Let's be clear, though. Islam is not our adversary. Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism. The obsession in some quarters with a clash of civilization or repeating the specific words radical Islamic terrorism isn't just a distraction. It gives these criminals, these murderers, more standing than they deserve.
And back with reaction, 2016 GOP presidential candidate, senator from the great state of Texas, Ted Cruz. Senator, she couldn't say it during the debate Saturday, couldn't say it today. Bernie Sanders thinks climate change is a bigger national security threat. I want you to respond to that. And as you are, we have new footage, by the way, from inside the Paris cafe of some of the refugees attacking these innocent men, women, and children. So what's your answer to her and Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama when they say these things?
Look, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, the modern Democratic Party, has a blindness to radical Islamic terrorism, and they've endangered the safety and security of this country, the safety and security of millions of Americans. You know, have you noticed that the one time President Obama and Hillary Clinton are willing to use military force is when using it benefits radical Islamic terrorists? Go back to the beginning of the administration. Libya. Listen, Gaddafi was a bad man. He had a terrible human rights record. But he had voluntarily handed over his nuclear weapons efforts. He was aiding the United States in going after radical Islamic terrorists. He was targeting the terrorists. And what did Obama and Clinton do? They led NATO in bombing Gaddafi and doing everything they could to drive him out of power. And the consequence was they handed Libya over to warring tribes of radical Islamic terrorists. One of the reasons Benghazi happened, 4 Americans were murdered, it wasn't just Hillary Clinton's malfeasance on that night. It was the failed foreign policy that had handed that country over to radical Islamic terrorists. They did the same thing in Egypt. Mubarak, again, a flawed man, a dictator with a terrible human rights record, but he consistently stood as an ally with America against radical Islamic terrorists. What did Obama and Clinton do? Pushed Mubarak out and pushed the Muslim Brotherhood, which finances radical Islamic terrorism all over the globe, into power. And by the
Mubarak referred to the Israelis as descendants of apes and pigs. And we gave him money and F-16s and tanks, or Obama did, I should say.
Yeah, Morsi, rather.
I'm sorry, Morsi. Mohammed Morsi said that,
Yeah. And for that matter, in Syria, President Obama and Hillary Clinton want to topple Assad. Assad is a bad man. If they succeed in toppling Assad, Syria will be taken over by radical Islamic terrorists, by al-Qaeda and al-Nusra and ISIS. And by the way, there are a whole bunch of Republicans running for president that agree with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton that we should be toppling Assad in Syria, that we should be putting in a no-fly zone. I think that makes no sense whatsoever. Why would we want another country to be governed by radical Islamic terrorists? How about we have a president and a commander-in-chief that focuses on U.S. national security interests instead of meddling in civil wars in the Middle East?
We can create the safe zone. And as you pointed out, we're spending millions and millions on humanitarian assistance. I want to do two things in the little time I have left with you, Senator. And I want to play 2 days ago, or 3 days ago now, John Kerry says I understand the legitimacy or the rationale, he changed the word, of the Charlie Hebdo attack, but there was no basis for this one. I was stunned by that statement. And as you answer, I'm going to put up some of the immigration statistics of how many people America has taken in from Muslim countries, so people are already aware of what we're doing. But let's go to John Kerry first.
There's something different about what happened from Charlie Hebdo, and I think everybody would feel that. There was a sort of particularized focus and perhaps even a legitimacy in terms of, not a legitimacy, but a rationale that you could attach yourself to somehow and say, okay, they're really angry because of this or that.
A rationale? That is insane. What is your reaction to that? We're putting up those statistics as you speak.
Look, John Kerry's statement is shameful. He should resign. I've called on John Kerry to resign multiple times. Both John Kerry and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have all served as apologists for radical Islamic terrorists. Now, what does an apologist mean? An apologist is someone who gives rationalization, someone who gives justifications. That's what John Kerry was doing right there. And, you know, I remember back to the National Prayer Breakfast that I attended. President Obama spoke there. It was the day after ISIS had lit a Jordanian pilot on fire. And President Obama gave an astonishing speech where he said, yes, ISIS has done some bad things, but you know what? Jews and Christians have done bad things too. And he invoked the Crusades and the Inquisition, which last I checked ended hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And I don't think it's asking too much to ask the president to stay in the current millennium. And the argument he's using that ISIS is just like the Crusades and the Inquisition, that is exactly the argument that ISIS uses, that the radical Islamic terrorists use. And it is harmful when the president is and the Secretary of State is defending radical Islamic terrorists. I'll tell you this, Sean, if I'm elected president, number one, we will finally secure the borders. We will get it done. I will build a wall that works. We will triple the border patrol. We will deport criminal illegal aliens. We will stop illegal immigration. Just in Texas, they just caught 8 Syrians trying to cross the border illegally. We will solve that problem. But number two, as commander-in-chief, we will defeat radical Islamic terrorism. You know, President Obama said in Europe, he doesn't have time for American leadership or America winning. What on earth is happening when the president says he doesn't believe in America winning anymore? I'll tell you what, my philosophy on radical Islamic terrorism is exactly the opposite. To borrow a page from Ronald Reagan in the Cold War, my philosophy is very simple. We win, they lose. We will defeat radical Islamic terrorism,
and to add
it will
emphasis
start in
to
January of 2017.
You know, it's interesting because the 9/11 Commission report said they're at war with us. We're not at war with them.
Yes.
One side will win. Senator, thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. God bless.
God bless. And coming up, the one and only Mark Stein is here to react to our interview with Senator Ted Cruz. Also, part 2 of our